The era of discovery hasn't ended, it's simply evolved. Despite global connectivity and digital maps reducing the unknown, adventurers today still tackle treacherous journeys with the same bravery as before. Here are 10 extreme explorers who've dared to seek adventure, proving exploration is far from over. Number 10. Alex Honnold. Free solo climbing is a sport with a deadly history. Climbers scale sheer rock faces and mountain cliffs with no equipment, only their hands and feet. These daredevil athletes risk everything for the rush of climbing higher and faster than ever before. They know that one mistake could lead to certain death. Alex Honnold, the greatest free solo climber of our time, accomplished the infamous El Capitan climb in Yosemite National Park in 2017. This giant vertical rock formation is 3,000 feet tall and is one of the most challenging climbs in the world, even with safety ropes. Honnold completed the climb in under 4 hours, but it was far from easy. Halfway up, he had a panic attack while pinned against a tiny ledge, staring down into the abyss. Only deep breathing and rock-solid mental resilience helped him overcome his fears and keep climbing. When asked how he managed to make it to the top, Honnold simply replied, "Do you accept the fact that if anything goes wrong, you die?" That's it. Number 9. Ed Stafford. Next up is another feat of endurance from an Englishman with too much time on his hands. In 2010, Ed Stafford became the first person to ever walk the length of the Amazon, a total of 4,490 miles across South America, coast to coast. His adventure took 2 years, 4 months, and 8 days to complete, and took him through some of the wildest and most inhospitable jungles on Earth. During the course of his trip, he fought off poisonous snakes and escaped death threats from indigenous tribes of Amerindians. At one point, Ed and his guide, Chau, had been walking for a month without seeing a single human and had to walk another week to find the nearest village on their map. Having calculated they had only 450 calories a day to survive on, they plowed ahead through thick terrain, but when they arrived, there was no village. Lost, hungry, and with a broken GPS, Ed and his guide survived only by eating tortoise meat. Number 8. Ross Edgley. Ross Edgley is a fitness champion and record-holding swimmer. In 2018, he made history by being the first person to swim around the entire mainland of Britain. It took him 157 days to complete the journey, with him spending an average of 12 hours swimming every day. The challenge was extremely tough on his body, and he faced several difficulties along the way. For instance, he suffered from severe chafing, which resulted in an open wound that stuck to his pillow while he slept, causing excruciating pain when he had to peel it off. He also had to face jellyfish attacks, during which he was stung so badly that his face swelled up, making it impossible for him to wear his goggles. To get them back on, he had to punch them into his swollen eye sockets. However, the worst thing he had to deal with was salt mouth, a condition in which the inside of his mouth was damaged by exposure to salt water. At one point, chunks of his tongue fell off due to this condition. Despite all these challenges, Ross managed to break 3 world records and is planning another expedition soon. Number 7. Jessica Watson. Jessica Watson, at the age of just 16, sailed a 10-meter boat around the world on her own, covering almost 23,000 nautical miles. She sailed through some of the most dangerous stretches of the ocean on Earth, passing Cape Horn, Cape Agulhas, Cape Leeuwin, and the Cape of Tasmania. During her journey, she faced several challenges, such as battling 12-meter-high waves, having her boat knocked down by 70-mile-an-hour winds, and repairing her vessel to avoid a watery end in the far reaches of the Southern Ocean. Despite these challenges, she completed her journey in 6 months and was awarded several medals and awards for bravery in her home country of Australia. When asked why she embarked on such a lonely and dangerous voyage, Watson replied that she wanted to challenge what people thought a little girl was capable of. So far, one might be forgiven for thinking the world of extreme exploration is a boys' club, but Jessica Watson's adventure definitely proves that idea wrong. Number 6. David de Rothschild. Since Victorian times, being a career explorer has been an occupation for the extremely wealthy. Well, how else are you going to afford all that survival gear? This tradition continues today with David de Rothschild, son of the mega-rich banking family, regularly going on dangerous expeditions to far-flung corners of the earth. His hobby mirrors that of Michael Rockefeller, another son of a wealthy banking family who traveled to Papua New Guinea to study remote tribes. Although his body was never recovered, it is thought that Michael was killed and eaten by the Asmat tribe in 1961. David de Rothschild, however, has been luckier so far and has used his wealth to highlight ecological problems such as plastic pollution in the sea. To do so, he built a catamaran out of plastic bottles and sailed to Plastic Island, the giant floating island of waste plastic in the Pacific, which is currently 3 times the size of France and growing. DChild calls himself an eco-explorer and has undoubtedly taken lots of risks to spread his message of environmental activism. But with his family still investing in oil and big polluting corporations, what if he's helping to clean up the mess his parents and grandparents helped finance? Number 5. Alan Eustace. Felix Baumgartner is a well-known skydiver who made a daring jump from a balloon in the stratosphere in 2012. However, he no longer holds the record for the highest altitude freefall jump. That distinction now belongs to Alan Eustace, a retired computer scientist and former vice president of Google. Eustace is not a typical adventurer and is more interested in solving complex engineering problems than seeking fame or wealth. He self-funded a team of scientists to develop a new way of diving from the upper atmosphere, which involved a specially designed protective suit that could be unhooked from the balloon without the need for a capsule or basket. Eustace and his team worked on the project in strict secrecy, avoiding all media attention. However, the day he attached himself to a balloon over New Mexico and rose 25 miles up into the air, 3 times higher than a commercial aircraft and a full mile higher than Baumgartner, he became known. His descent lasted nearly 4.5 minutes, during which he reached speeds exceeding 822 miles per hour. Despite his incredible achievement, Eustace's greatest reward was the knowledge that his record-breaking suit could help people survive re-entry from space missions. Number 4. Erik Larson. Erik Larson is another classic explorer whose accomplishments prove the golden age of exploration isn't quite dead yet. Larson is the only man in history to complete the polar trifecta, reaching the North Pole, South Pole, and summit of Mount Everest in the same year. He's braved whiteouts in Antarctica and avoided giant avalanches on the slopes of the Himalayas. Larson has said he doesn't want to be the first person to visit these places, but the last, before climate change changes them forever. To do this, he traveled to the Arctic in the summer, something never attempted before because as the ice melts, it becomes incredibly unstable and dangerous. Larson has recounted terrifying anecdotes from his trip about traveling along thinning ice that cracked underneath him and being woken up in the middle of the night by gaping holes of icy water opening up near where they slept. Larson hopes his journeys will help teach people about the environment, a cause he cares enough about to put himself in frighteningly risky situations. Number 3. Geoff Mackley. Geoff Mackley, who identifies as a filmmaker, explorer, and self-proclaimed idiot, has carved a niche for himself as a journalist with a penchant for capturing unseen footage of perilous events, documenting over 70 lethal natural catastrophes, including tsunamis, Category 5 hurricanes, and wildfires. His adventure-seeking career was kick-started by storm chasing, leading him across the globe to confront the wrath of nature's most daunting phenomena. A standout moment in his career occurred when he, alongside his team, rappelled 500 yards into the active Murom volcano in the remote South Pacific. After a decade of planning, equipped with a protective silver suit and oxygen tanks, Mackley came within 100 yards of molten lava. Despite facing near-death experiences multiple times, his closest brush with mortality happened inside the volcano when a surge of magma erupted close to him. With temperatures soaring above 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, Any contact with the magma would have been fatal. Mackley's footage, miraculously captured without damaging his GoPro, has been acclaimed as one of the most extraordinary videos ever recorded of an active volcano. Number 2. James Balog. In a world threatened by climate change, it's more important than ever for adventurers to be aware of the world they are exploring. James Balog is one such man, an explorer, scientist, and artist who has spent decades documenting changes to the world's ice sheets. Balog founded the Extreme Ice Survey, a group that aims to publicize the effects of climate change by creating powerful documentary footage. On an expedition to the Arctic, Balog and his team set up complex networks of time-lapse cameras and left them there for years. They camped in the Arctic for months working on their film, experiencing terrible hardships and health complications from the cold. But when they caught a huge climate event in Greenland, it made it all worthwhile. Balog saw and filmed the biggest ice shelf calving ever captured on camera. This was when an iceberg the size of Manhattan broke away from the ice shelf into the sea. The glacier was several times the height of a skyscraper and weighed many millions of tons. Balog's journey shined a light on the huge changes happening in our world that we would never otherwise see. Number 1. John Allen Chaw. John Allen Chaw, a young missionary from Vancouver, embarked on a perilous journey to North Sentinel Island in the Bay of Bengal, positioned midway between India and Burma's west coast. This island is notably isolated, housing one of the last uncontacted indigenous tribes on Earth, descendants of the earliest human migrations from Africa around 2 million years ago. The Sentinelese tribe is known for its fierce opposition to outsiders, often responding to intruders or accidental visitors with lethal force, and even shooting arrows at overhead helicopters. The prohibition against visiting the island serves to protect both the visitors and the indigenous population, who are vulnerable to foreign diseases. Despite the risks and legal restrictions, Chaw, driven by his Christian faith, aimed to introduce Christianity to the island's inhabitants, fully aware of the potential dangers and illegality of his mission. He believed he was challenging what he called Satan's last stronghold, a place devoid of Christianity that he thought desperately needed salvation. Chau's initial attempt to connect with the Sentinelese involved approaching the island in a small boat, declaring his love through shouts and songs. An arrow striking his waterproof Bible didn't deter him. He returned, more determined to spread his message. Tragically, his second visit resulted in his death immediately upon landing, witnessed by fishermen who saw him get shot with arrows and his body dragged away. The dilemma of retrieving Chaw's body highlights the complex risks involved, including the potential to inadvertently harm the tribe with external diseases. This tragic incident underscores the profound cultural and ethical implications of contacting isolated tribes, emphasizing the delicate balance between outreach and the preservation of indigenous communities. For those fascinated by North Sentinel Island's mysterious allure and tumultuous history, further exploration is recommended through additional resources. Click the video on screen now. Also, Chau was brave or just foolish, and as there's still a place for explorers in the 21st century. Thanks for watching.